So when did you start your life of crime? Like what was the, when I was a kid, I'll say this. I used to steal batteries. Batteries are very expensive, 9-volt batteries for my paintball guns and stuff, my little hobby. It was like, fuck, this battery's $12. Fuck that. I'd steal that shit like that. But I never progressed beyond that. I wasn't going to get into stealing TVs and cars. How do you get into that?
We need to give up on Kyle as a thief.
Yeah, it's not happening.
He doesn't have a future.
Probably a good thing. You know, it's amazing. I was 11 years old. I grew up in the Bronx, New York, which is a rough area. And you know, people know, and I was abused at 11, but I never, ever make that a part of what happened to people. I mean, some psychologists said that's when you went off the deep end, and it's not true. I believe, you know, listen, I was a rough kid. I was the youngest brother of 5 kids. I was the second almost to the bottom. I have one other sister. Well, she passed. But so my point is, we grew up in a neighborhood. We didn't have money. We lived in a 2-bedroom bungalow with a fucking basement and an attic with 5 kids and parents and a dog. And, you know, my dad was a construction. He built the World Trade Center. He was on the job. You know what I mean? He was the foreman on that tin knocking job. Mm-hmm. So then he built in the attic. He built 2 bedrooms for my brother and I. And we fucking always in mischief. But, you know, I was a kid that my dad used to take me around. Back in those days, they were paying off the mob to do the World Trade Center. I mean, everybody doesn't understand how building works in New York. In New York City, if you want to build a building, you better pay the mob. And here's how the shakedown works. It doesn't shake down like, well, I'm going to break your legs. Listen, you're going to pay us $2,000 a week. If you don't pay us $2,000 a week, you know, something will happen. Okay, fuck you. I ain't paying $2,000 a week. That's why the Coleman rink could never be made for 10 years. That's the ice skating rink in New York that took 10 years. Trump did it in 6 months. And Trump's a moron too, but I ain't going to get into that. But
the man can build an ice rink, though.
So what happens is in New York is how it works in extortion is if they control the cement trucks. So all the truckings or the trunk company. All of a sudden, when you do a building job in New York, the reason they're built so good and they're not going to fall down is every truck of cement that comes on a job, they have to pour it into a cone. And if it doesn't stay in certain timing, whatever they do, they have to send that whole truck back. Can't be approved for the job. It gets not whatever it is. So what do? Subliminally, every other truck is not right. So they got to send that truck. What happens? You can't pour cement. So the carpenters can't go to the next floor. The electricians can't work. My dad's trade was tin knockers, the duct work and stuff. That can't go up to the next floor. It stops a whole fucking job. You know, and first they do is slow it down. And the guys say, what's going on? Hey, the trucks are coming in. You know, they're not right. We can't do it. The code guy's right here. You ain't fucking paying somebody for that. And sure enough, then, you know, before you know it, the guy. Now, most buildings in New York, if they're not done by a specific date, because they already they sold all these condos in this building. Mm-hmm. These people want to move in. If it's not done by this, they get fined like $10,000 a day, $20,000 a day, big numbers. So this guy who's the builder, the contractor, he wants to get this fucking building done. He want to get fined, eating into all his profits every day that goes by. And you're talking about millions and millions of dollar jobs. Sure enough, part of doing business, pay him the $2,000 a week, $3,000, whatever it is, you pay off. Well, my dad used to do that for the tin knocks. He was the foreman of the World Trade Center. So he used to go around, pay certain mobsters. I don't know the whole deal. I was a kid. I was a young kid. And then I learned the World Trade Center was built from 68 to 72. Both buildings, 2 biggest buildings in the world, took 4 years and it was done. And, I used to go around with my dad and they were all mobster about it. I'm talking typical shit you see in the movies. I even laugh about the guy with the hat and the cigar and the fucking, you know, takes you in the bathroom to make a bet. You know what I mean? Like, they had flash paper back then. They call it flash paper. You can write on it. A spark hit, boom, just flows away.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it would be gone. So I used to go around, play pinball and stuff and with the mobsters and stuff. So I understood that already, that things are going on. So at 11 years old, a guy in our neighborhood is a big mobster. Well, his son was like 22, 23. and he ran the football tickets. You guys know what football tickets are? You pick 3, you put $1, you get $5. You pick 4, you put $1, you get 10. They're called football tickets. I even did them in prison. But anyway, so I was running tickets, and this is 1972, 73, 11, 12 years old, and I'm going door to door to the teacher, to the fucking sanitation, the electrician, a whole neighborhood. Hey, you want to play a ticket? Everybody, yeah, kid, here's $2. And they put it on, and I was making 25 cents every dollar. 25.
So whose game is this that you're running? Like, I mean, that you're selling tickets for? Is this yours or is this somebody else's that's scared?
No. This is the mob guy. The guy's son.
So how do you hooked up with that guy? How do you?
They lived in a neighborhood. My mom actually took care of the mobster himself. My mom was a nurse.
Okay.
So she was like in that area, she was almost like the doctor of the area. I didn't have a doctor.
She ever patch up some bullet wounds?
She actually did to my brother. That's a long story. But I'm in my studio. I don't know if you guys, what I did was I built a studio here, right, into the whole place, right? Pretty cool to do that light. Cool. You guys can't see the light. But anyway, we built the whole studio. And I did it because I live with my mom. And my mom is 89. And I lost 2 sisters already to cancer. So I was pretty much the only one who could come back and help my mom. So
it's really admirable.
I'll never regret it, but it's funny. She when are you gonna be back? I said, Mom, I'm 60 fucking. I don't say fuck, but I'm 60 years old. I mean, I gotta tell you when I'm coming back. What the? But,
if you don't like it, move out of your mom's house.
Living under my roof.
Yeah, but she can't say that now because if I leave,
true.
She has to leave. She has to go live with my sister, and she don't want to do that. So, but she has to. She's pretty much on her own here. I don't bust her chops. My mother's been smoking cigarettes for 70 years. You think I'm the fucking teller? Don't smoke. Get the fuck out of here. Smoke a joint, Ma. You want a little heroin? You want a little? At 89, who gives a fuck?
You want some crystal?
That's anything she wants. Anything she wants.
No, so I wanted to understand, like, how old are you when you literally have a job for the mob selling these football tickets?
Well, you call it a job. It was a kid who was hustling the football tickets.
Yeah, but to show up on time.
Oh, you have to get done, and
you're getting paid.
Not only show up, you got to pick up the tickets. You got to do collections.
That's a job.
I was 12 years old, and listen to this. In 1972-3, I was making $125 a week. That's cash money. That was a lot of money back then, And I think back at that. Obviously, that's a fucking thing. Then you're around. The neighborhood I grew up with, everybody was I hate to say everybody, but we hung on the streets. We fucking did the drugs back then. It was the acid and shit like that was coming out. That was 69, 70s, into the mid 70s. We did a lot of that. Matter of fact, I remember streaking was big. You guys don't even know what streaking is, do you?
Streaking? Yeah, running naked through somewhere.
Yeah, that was like a major thing back then. We used to streak on the highways and shut down highways. Literally, a bunch of fucking.
They make you a sex offender. You do that shit now.
So what?
They make you a sex offender. You do that now.
Oh, I know. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Listen, our dicks were so small back then, they didn't know what the fuck.
It was the 70s. Everyone's dicks were small.
The weed was weak and the dicks were small.
Those classic 70s dicks.
And the bushes were big.
Hairy and small.
Hairy bushes. So at 12 years old, I was making money, and we did other things. Then we used to rob the stores. Like we had a big avenue, East Drummond Avenue. When I say rob the stores, we get a kid that was working in there at 15 years old. So when that kid worked, we already figured out a scam. One kid was bringing out all the lobsters and the steaks, high end, out the back door into the dumpster. We'd pick it up at night, fucking do it, sell it to people on the street. We're making money. And we're all gambling and doing shit. We were just hustlers. We didn't come from money. We had no money, like I said. And, I remember my dad gets laid off, and you're trying to raise 5 kids in a house. I understood it. I remember, my parents are the greatest, meaning that way. They gave us the support. There's no prejudice in me. They gave me things that I think I look at now that I try to give my kids or whatever. But I remember playing basketball in my slippers because at that time they couldn't afford $2 Ked sneakers or whatever the fuck they were in the Kmart. But I'm not ever bitter, but I like the money,
Well,
let
me ask you this.
Huh?
You got your dad who's got like this straight job, and then there's you who's running around hustling. Like, is there ever a what does he say when he like figures out what's going on? Is there a conversation like it just sounded so much like the movie A Bronx Tale, because you're literally in the Bronx and you're running around the neighborhood with the mob doing little jobs for him, and your dad has a real job. So so far we're beat for beat with the Bronx Tale.
Yeah,
but if he had that Robert De Niro talk where he was like, "That's dirty money. You don't want that. That's my money, Dad. And I leave that money in there." Like that happened.
I love the movie. He knows the fucking movie real good. That's good.
Oh, you'd be surprised. He knows them all.
No, absolutely not. It was, of course, I knew where that movie was made, and it was that kind of era, same time. We didn't have that prejudice that was in that movie. We didn't. In my neighborhood, we didn't give a fuck if you were a fucking green Martian. If you lived there, you were in. If you didn't, you were out, period. End of story. It didn't matter what you were in that neighborhood. It just mattered that you were in that neighborhood. So my dad, you said like Robert De Niro was this guy. No, my dad was paying off mob guys. My dad was doing the money. He was he ran that job, which is the World Trade Center. He had 200 guys at the time.
So he understood that was just part of life. He had that.
Yeah, in New York, that even his life. I mean, he took me to the bars where he went betting at 12 and young. And even I used to drive him home at 14, because he'd get fucking hammered at the bar. And I'd fucking, I made my first bet in a bar at 13 years old. I remember when I did it. Was it 12? It might have been 12 or 13, but it was with Vinny Tremomuno was the guy. His name, the Triangle Bar at Buer Avenue. And how betting works. If you make a 20-time bet, that's $100. Every time is $5. So if I say I want a 10-time bet, it's $50. You got to pay $55 when you give them the money, because you have to pay the VIG. It's a 10% VIG or interest, whatever. Now, if you win, you're going to get $105 back. You're 50. The 50 you won, and your VIG. You don't have to pay the VIG on the win. So you're going to get that back. So, but see, a bookie don't give a shit. He gets $50 on this team, $50 on the opposite team. He automatically makes $5. He don't give a fuck.
Like running a poker game. He doesn't care who's winning.
Exactly. And a real good bookie's like that. That's deeper down the story. But so my dad he's on the fringes, if you want to call it that, with paying people off, betting, and
so he's definitely not taking you aside back at home and being like, "Hey," he's probably saying $125, huh? That's not bad. All right.
I didn't tell him.
Oh, good. You got
$500 by my dad.
You got like $500 under the mattress. Your dad's probably got $500 under his.
You said you think he would have actually shook you down, took some money from you?
Yeah, I was very, very close to my dad.
You go from this 12-year-old. You go from this 12-year-old running around the neighborhood selling these tickets and doing these little things here and there. How does that get to being world famous jewel thief?
Well, you missed the whole fucking area.
I know. I want it.
Kyle, come with me.
Come with me.
There you go. He's here now. From 12 years old, we started robbing shit in the streets. Like I said, the hustles. So then we even got a guy with a car hustle. We were getting $500 a car. They'd tell you to rob cars and get $5. And then we would take him to a chop shop over near Pelham and Split Rock. It's in the Bronx. Literally 2 golf courses in the Bronx. Figure that fucking shit out. But in the fucking backwoods, there was a chop shop.
Any car?
Huh?
Any car? Like you get $500 a car, just whatever car.
No, they tell you what, not specifically any of these, this year and up, $500, no questions asked. Boom, walk in, drive it, and here's how we rob them. In New York, in the summer, in the winters, people would go out and start their car and go in and get their coffee and get warm and heat their car up. We'd go right down the block. You'd see the smoke come up, drop me off, jump in the car. The guy's up there 10 more minutes, that car's gone.
It's warmed up. It's warmed up.
That was really nice.
And we even got so brazen with that. Woody, it was crazy because what we did was we would go, like, people also pull up in front of a bagel store or or a luncheonette and run in to get the paper and a bagel and a shit. So what do? We watch, hanging out right out front near the meter there. He pulls up, double parked. Nobody's in front of him. He walks out. We're walking right by him, jumping the car. Right, some of them. One guy almost got us. Turned around, saw what was going on. Was hitting the car, but they, it was, and we had the keys.
Yeah.
We didn't give a shit about it. They didn't care about that, but we would bring it into this area. $500 kid. $500 kid. No wonder I fucking said fuck school. I mean, I was very, I have a very high IQ. I don't mean that to be, smart ass or anything like that, but I didn't go to school. I hated school. I got my degree and all that shit later from prison, really, more than anything. But what happened was I'm saying, fuck this shit. And then my brain's saying, wait, this is trouble, man. I got to get out of here. So I go in the Coast Guard, in Washington, D.C. and from New York. And so I had no duty or anything like that. And I just fucking was right back in it. I start collecting and I start fucking muscling. I was a pretty big, tough kid. I was collecting and muscling for a card game in New York, down in Queens, underneath. You had to have, this is back then, you had to have $10,000 to get in the fucking room. I used to see 20, 30, 40 people get in this place. I'm thinking, all that fucking money down there. Holy shit, But I'm up there. I'm one of the, the guys.
You're watching after the money.
What's
but
are musclers ever required to use it, or is it just intimidation? Like
no. I mean, listen, if the guys are coming in packed with guns and stuff, there's a war going on for that because that game is protected. That they're mob family run games. They're not. You couldn't. Woody and Kyle can say, hey, let's get this nice poker game going over here in Brooklyn, and we get all these guys. Oh, you can do it. Once it gets good, making money, they're going to come see you, and now you're going to be paying people. Or
It'll be their game now.
Huh?
You'll be their partner now in your own game.
Absolutely.
Like, you've got a great game here. I'm glad you did that for us all. Let's.
I'd hate to see something happen to it.
It's every Thursday, right? You'll pay us. So did you ever have to go and collect on debts for people? Because that part of that's you hear about organized crime and it's like there's always the well, what if I don't, right? And so the guy who shows up is this is what if you don't. So when the rubber hits the road there, what is that like?
Kyle, that's a great question, and it's something I sometimes struggled with a lot in my life now. Because I did bad things to people. I laid a kid's arm on a curb and snapped it like a fucking twig. I took an iron, and I actually tell that whole story in the book. I'm gonna send you all books. You just give me.
I appreciate that. I really
Thank
do
you so much.
Yeah, I'll sign books.
Yeah.
You'll love them.
We'll send you cum pills.
You're gonna love them.
They're great.
We'll send you cum pills and drugs.
10 pages.
Yeah.
How many pages?